Hey AP, I am going to use this video presentation to show you exactly what I'm looking for on the critique that we'll be holding based on this first project. So I have my example slides I'm going to show you here. I'm going to take you through. You're going to notice this is going to be about 5 to 10 minutes. This is what I'm looking for in either your video recording if you're not going to be in class, or in class that we're going to use to then discuss the piece. All right, so here I am pretending to be a student. All right. Hello, so the work that I'm showing you today is called Just Keeping My Head Above Water. It is, for me, about the 8th piece in my sustained investigation, even though I know you guys are not working on yours yet. I thought I'd throw that in there. All right. So the artist I was looking for was Natalie Foss. Natalie Foss is a key artist of inspiration for me in this entire series. She is an illustrator, which is important to note because she doesn't consider herself a traditional fine artist. By that I mean she kind of works in the realm of graphic design, but also in fine art. So she kind of lives in both of those worlds. So, and I think her work reflects that. They're very emotional. They have a deep meaning to them, but at the same time, they're very, very visually appealing, and you can see where she draws on her background in graphic design and illustration to make them just visually stunning. And I think that's what I like best about her pieces is they are all portraits, which mine has in common, and she's combining her rendering skills and abilities with flat color and pattern. Where her works differ is in her choice of media, and also the intent behind the portraiture. So she's working with color pencil and marker, and I'm working 100% in acrylic and also paint, or not paint, excuse me, in paper. Hers are flat. Mine have some three-dimension because I use relief and I use wood cutouts as well. When I talk about the intent of the portrait, hers are just looking actually at music, and how music inspires her and what it says about people and their choices of music, where mine are much more about the idea of being alone, what it means to be alone, and what alone makes you think and feel as a person. So this is my pre-planning leading up to the piece. So you see here I was experimenting with gold leaf because unlike Natalie's work, I do want some reflective qualities. I also am very inspired by the artist Gustav Klimt, who uses a lot of gold leaf. I like very ornate things, very beautiful things, very pretty things, even in sad moments, which you'll see some of my pieces are in the series. I also dabbled in making my own pattern paper as well, because once I looked at her pieces and I started looking at how I'm going to use the wood cutouts, I knew that I wanted to combine flat color with pattern work and that full rendering. So those are some of the things I'm kind of stealing from Natalie, is that idea of using rendering and then contrasting it with flat pattern or flat color. So this is the work as it progressed. So as you can see, it's a woman floating in water. Sorry guys, in your work, delete this. I don't want to see any text in this slide. So one of the biggest things I struggle with is just the technical skill of getting the head to look like it was placed in the water. So the way that I work is I always do the cutout first. I paint the cutout, and then I do the negative space back, the background last. Even though I know what I want it to kind of sort of be, I always start with that foreground, because for me, because of the way I layer it, I don't have to do the background first, and I want the background to be inspired by what I'm doing in the foreground. But this is one of those times that I couldn't finish the foreground until I figured out what I was doing with the background. So this is what I started with. So when I was painting, I was doing this kind of thing. I was doing more realistic things. And then I was really struggling, and it looked like blue hair or yarn, and I hated it. So I took a break and I started dealing with the negative space, and I came up with this kind of pattern. Again, I'm kind of dealing with that patterning that she did. These are wood cutouts, so it's kind of hard to tell here, but this is three-dimensional. So this is one level, and then these all are another level. And I painted them, and I really love that. And for me, that became an easy solution. I'm like, well, that's stupid, because I'm trying to create contrast between rendering, which is that modeling, the shading and modeling in three-dimensional trickery with paint, with that the contrast. And I love that. I love the contrast of this rendering with this flat shape. So I'm like, well, duh, just do the flat shapes on the waves, because that is the background that's just coming up in the foreground. And it worked really well. I still think I probably need to do a little bit more in here, but so I took the simplicity of the line and I abstracted this and took out a lot of the variation. It also helped in making this look more believable, so that, because what was happening is this was not flooding into the background. And that's one of the things I struggle with this piece, because this is one level stacked on top of this level that's stacked on top of this level, and it created a problem. The relief created a problem with making this look believable because it wasn't flowing into this. So my solution was, by painting with the same technique, even though it's literally raised off of the surface, it then looked like it was part of that background. So this is what I ended up with. This is my finished piece. Some of the strengths is I do think I was able to create the depth, and I wish I had a photo here to show you what this looks like from the side, so you can see the cast shadow here where this is raised up, and then this is raised up. You can kind of see the cast shadow here and here. Excuse me, I have the hiccups. But you can see that I was able to create this weird optical illusion where it looks very, very flat, but also three-dimensional at the same time. And when you see it in person, you see it even better. So I think I was really successful with that. And I think that's in large part due to the contrast in textures, that flat of these shapes versus the rendering here and here on the body. I like how I thought about patterning in a different way here, where instead of painting a pattern on a piece of paper, I created a pattern out of the raised pieces of wood in the background, and that works as a pattern in the background. Some of the weaknesses, I still feel like I need to go back in here. This isn't strong to me. This is still a little in between. It's neither fully rendered nor is it flat. So I think I'm going to go back in and probably flatten that out a little bit more. So that's one of my areas of weaknesses. But the biggest for me is the expressive use of color. So one of the things I loved about Natalie's work is that she didn't rely on realistic or representational choice of color for expression. And this image is meant to be, let me try to find the right words. It's meant to be an illustration of how there's a bittersweet success to just keeping your head above water, where maybe life is really, really challenging, and just keeping your head above water is a success. Even if it doesn't look like it, this should be, I want the piece to look a little bit more realistic strength, if that makes sense. So I want a sense of pride here. To me, the colors are a little too representational. I want some joy in this, even though she's not overly smiling. It's a very Mona Lisa-like smile where it's not overtly happy, but I want there to be some little bit of hope, even in all this blue and sadness. And that's where it's kind of conflicting, because I've got blue, which it is kind of sad, but she has this look on her face that's a little optimistic, even though she's still underwater. So I need to use my colors a little bit more expressively. The other area that I think I'm lacking in is where I'm going back to that common thread through all my pieces, which is the gold metallics. So I think I need to figure out where to put the gold in there. And I think if I do put the gold in there, that will kind of kill two birds with one stone, where I think it will be a little bit more expressive. I'm using that gold to lighten this up, and it's going to tie it in. So I'm not sure yet, and that's why I would love to get some feedback from you guys where you think I should put the gold, because I'm thinking right now I might just do literally like some real small slivers of gold on the water, because you know how sometimes water glistens. I think that could be really cool if I put that gold leaf, that reflective gold leaf there. I'm just worried about being too heavy-handed with it, so I think it needs to be really, really subtle. And then I'm also interested in knowing or thinking what you guys think of my lack of traditional pattern with the paper, because one of the things I'm doing is this pattern paper, and all my other pieces have it. This one doesn't, and where I should do that. One of my thoughts is maybe taking a couple of the waves. I have this beautiful blue and gold paper that I could lay over top, like in here and maybe here, or should I put the pattern in the swimsuit top? So I'm eager to hear what your thoughts are on that. Thank you for listening, and now is when I would open up for questions or comments.